I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on our agenda items? And no public comment? Kathy, you want to stay for the whole meeting, or you want to make a little comment?
I hadn't planned on making a comment. I just don't have a meeting at my high school, so I can.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean you've been passing us up for your high school? Is that
I got a junior, so.
Hudson Valley Land Trust, Kathy Hamill is at our meeting, enjoying everything? Okay. But if you change your mind, you want to speak later on, just let me know. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone have public comment? All right. Approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll make that motion that we approve the minutes of, the date in front of me,
March 14th.
March 14th.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 2 weeks, yep.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Communications. I got a mixture of things here, but first of all, we had last meeting a public hearing on Time Warner Cable Agreement. I sent them the very good and specific minutes of our last meeting, which was pages. I have not heard back from Time Warner, so we won't be looking at a contract tonight. West Point notified me that they'll be closing the, good evening, sir. West Point notified me that they'll be closing Mine Road on specific days. Those days are listed on Channel 23. They're on our both websites, the Facebook site and the town website. And I'm sure Mary Jane may put a little blurb in the paper about it when we get into April, I guess. Because it's April the 8th, April the 20th, the 21st, and the 23rd of April. That's, for those that want to know, two of the days are for machine gun practice, so I guess you shouldn't go out there. The other one is weapons history shoot. I don't know what that means. And then the Sandhurst competition is back in town, and it's closed for that also. Did you correct that online? Okay. Also, our highway superintendent informed me that we don't have an outlet for electronic things such as televisions, computer monitors, all sorts of electric equipment that you put out. You'll still be putting it out, but we don't know where it's going to go from there. But we can't find anybody that wants it or will take it, probably not even at a cost, right, Pat?
As of right now, we're looking for somebody even has a cost to take it because we're pretty full.
Yeah. Okay, so be prepared in the future that we may ask you to hold it back a little bit. Please do not deposit on any of the roads, or the roadsides or what have you. Please don't do that. If you got to deposit it anywhere, put it up at the town garage. But don't put it on the road somewhere, please. Okay. Congratulations to our Comptroller, Kelly Blauvelt, who has completed the AUD and filed it with the New York State Comptroller on March the 23rd. Kelly, thank you. Thank you very much. We paid out in our last A&P $51,292, which includes $19,142 for landfill charges, $2,225 for Perillo garage, for the highway garage electrical work to Perillo, and $5,458 for legal work to Justin's company. I'd say all three names, but I get them mixed up.
It's fine. It's my company.
Yeah, close enough. All right, board liaison reports. Ty, have anything for us?
Not much this evening, but a couple of things. Good evening. As far as recreation, the interviews are completed for the assistant. And thanks to Ms. Blauvelt and Mr. Falk there, no thanks to me. I didn't get to the interview, but I'm confident in their judgment, so they're going to have some names to present, or at least Aaron will have some names to present to you on that specifically. And I'd also like to say that Ms. Jackson, in terms of the Juneteenth committee, has aggressively went forward with that and put together a committee and has been interacting with the recreation director. And between the two of them, I think we're getting a lot of traction on that, and so I'm sure there'll be some updates in the future on that.
All right, sir. Bill, do you have something, did you go to that?
Yes, we had a meeting last Thursday. It was not heavily attended. There were only 3 members of the community present, besides the focus group. The consultants presented their results of the data they have gathered so far. They have a lot more data that they need in order to, pull the whole picture together. So they were asking both the town and the village, particularly the village, because that's the most important data. Though they're not behind, it's a little bit further behind than they would like to be. They have pulled together like organizational charts. I can, in fact, I'll pass this down. It has my notes. If you'll pass it back down to me,
But I have a copy of that.
You do.
Yes.
All right.
And I think June has a
The
copy,
other,
right?
if you want to look at a tie or.
Yeah.
But just org structure, salaries, what the what everybody does in both village and town hall. That's kind of what they're driving for. Okay.
Just curiosity, how long was your meeting?
It was an hour and a half. There'll be another. They're all public, but there'll be another larger public invited meeting on. Right now, it's very tentative, so I wouldn't put it in paper, Mary Jane. It's like they're looking at like May 26th roundabout, depending on if they complete this data dive and get ready for that. So they're targeting May 26th, and I think they would like to have it again in this venue here.
And again, curiosity, who presides over the meeting?
Tim,
Wiedemann?
From the study group?
Wiedemann, yeah.
Oh,
Tim
okay,
Wiedemann
okay,
pretty
yeah.
much drives the meeting, presents the results. Certainly, the mayor is heavily engaged.
Sure.
And Charlie Murphy was there, and myself.
Very good.
It was good.
Okay, anything else, Bill?
No, I think that's it.
Jim?
Really not much. This Friday, we're going to sit down and review the county hazmat plan that we've been working with the county on, and to submit our comments. And I sat in at the police department, just out of curiosity, and listened in when Tim Wiedemann interviewed the Police Chief Quinn, and it was very interesting. And Tim was very thorough. That's it.
Okay.
I don't have anything exciting to
You
share.
don't have anything?
I don't.
That's unusual for you. All right.
I got one more thing,
Yes,
too.
sir.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, I went and met with Chief Quinn, and it was related to a young man who's interested in being a police officer. He started the process in Newburgh. He actually went through some testing and so forth, and just wasn't selected to go to the academy by their police department. So ended up being referred to me. Best thing I could think of was go to the chief, and I was very impressed with him in the way he took the time to just kind of educate this young man and then steer him in the right direction. So I think that speaks a lot about him and in the department that we have here. But the young man walked away with feeling really really motivated with
Good.
continuing the process.
Excellent. Okay, let me start with Mindock Park. There's been a lot of work done on Mindock Park. If you've been down there lately, you'll see the amount of work that was done. Kevin, my son's going to shoot me because I'm not coming out with the name, Kevin McCarthy and Richie Scott worked for one solid week down there with excavating machines, clearing the property from one end to the other. You can stand in the middle of the property and look all the way down, look all the way down that way. No weeds, no growth, nothing of the sort. They've really done a tremendous job, and now the committee, who meets every month, they started meeting the second Saturday of every month at 3 o'clock. Normally during the wintertime, it's been at my restaurant, Richie's Little Place, but I think weather permitting, we'll have the next meeting down at Mindock Park. I also have to commend Stella Root, who is our treasurer, and since we just became a 501(c), there's all sorts of reporting things, tax time, stuff like that's got to be done. Once it's done and put together, then it's an annual thing that is very simple to do. So I got to commend her for the amount of time that she's putting in and what she's doing as our treasurer. So not only the committee receives my commendations, but definitely the workers that I've mentioned. Accommodating people, Mr. Malarkey, Danny Malarkey, put on that parade through the doubts of a lot of people. He did a nice job. It was a nice little parade. I've heard nothing but good feedback about it. And most of the feedback is next year we're going to do better. It's going to be bigger and better and what have you. So congratulations to Mr. Malarkey. His efforts were well appreciated by the town and the town government and the town people. 4th of July celebration. And I'm going to mention they met at my place again, Richie's Restaurant. When I have these meetings, nothing is open. The bar is not open. There's no food. There's no nothing. It's not as if I'm trying to get business by having meetings at my place. I just provide a meeting room and a table, chairs, and lights, and that's it. They do their own meeting. I don't sell a thing. They met last week Monday, I think it was. They had a very productive meeting. They've got a lot of plans, a lot of stuff that they're putting together. They need help, absolutely they need help. They need money. I think something's on Channel 23 right now about their next meeting, about where to send donations to. They're on the go, and 4th of July is not far away, but there's more plans for Main Street activities. The normal canoe race in Grove Park. They're talking about 3 different disc jockeys, fireworks, of course. A lot of plans, a lot of things being done, and they do need help, and they won't refuse the smallest amount of help you've got to give to them. The Triangle in Fort Montgomery, it's a nice community when you've got people like Kevin McCarthy and Richie Scott and the Neighbors Triangle there, Brian Sonanik, who was the owner of the company, I guess. They had some extra stuff to put on top. What's that called?
Mulch.
The mulch. They mulched it. And they even mentioned that they had leftover mulch. That's why they did it. They did it last year, too. I think they order enough so they can do it. They also mentioned that they have too many plants this year. They'll put some plantings in there, what have you. But it's just a nice community to have people doing things like this for us. So my thanks to Brian and Neighbors. They went out there in an hour's time. They beat me by a couple days because I was going to go out there and tear the whole thing up and put grass in there. But so now we'll have a planted garden again.
There's one more thing, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the battle site and maybe Vision has a cleanup on 9W this Saturday?
That's true,
Yes.
yeah. We were trying to get West Point has 90 cadets for 90 minutes type of drive going on, but they will not be able to participate this weekend.
But anyone in the community that would like to come out and help clean up 9W, I think they meet in the parking lot in Fort Montgomery across from the post office.
Correct. Yep. So, yeah, everyone.
8 a.m., folks.
Many hands make less work. Appreciate that, Jim.
And those 90 cadets, just this weekend, they're not available, do you know? Or
Yeah, so they're looking to reschedule. Lynn's been talking with the cadet lead on that, trying to get them. So I think anything we're not able to get this Saturday, hopefully we'll be able to.
It was, that was brought up at the
Direct
MindDoc meeting, and we need some people with hard rakes to rake out the stones so that we can do some grass and what have you down there.
And I didn't mean to imply that Lynn was coordinating all 90 cadets. We're just looking to get
Yeah,
an
well,
allocation.
she probably has a
you know,
contact,
to do
though,
the
anyway. I
cleanup.
don't have a
So,
contact.
I'll have to find out who's, I think a lot of that was, it was first offered to the mayor, and that, he was
Yeah.
he was funneling the resources, but follow up with that with you.
All right. By the way, MindDoc Park again, we have this group coming in called Checkmate. They're going to do some still photography down there. They have a permit from me, and they have the insurance papers insuring the town, the MindDoc Park Committee, and Scenic Hudson. They're a part of, I'm trying to think, they're a subsidiary of Marvel Studios, which is a subsidiary of Walt Disney Company. So it's a big company that are going to be down there, let's see, April the 5th, between 5 and 9 p.m. And June, I notified the chief that they'd be down there, and you might want to remind him again, because
That was April the 5th?
yeah, and they have permission to park on both sides of the track,
All right. And the time was
5 to 9.
5 p.m. to 9?
Yeah. And the rain date is the next day, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, next day is the rain date. Kelly, Marty Falk, and I met with the present billing company, Evolution, today. We had a very good meeting for about an hour with the present company. And if you remember, maybe the last meeting and the one before, I suggested we might be going to a new company because I wasn't getting any cooperation out of them. Well, fortunately, we got the cooperation not too soon, but they've been going through, let's see, what's the name of the big company that?
Transcare.
Transcare is a monster company that filed bankruptcy, went out of business with a 3-day notice. And they had to pick up, and they were Transcare's billing company. So they had to pick up all these different ambulance companies and such as that. And they didn't have time to answer our emails, basically, is what it was. But so they finally got through and answered us. We had a face-to-face meeting with them. And I'm glad we didn't switch. I think this is a good company. It's just been a little bit of a lack of communications on certain areas, but, so for the time being, we're going to stick with them. Okay, Aaron, camp invention, do you have something on that?
Yeah, just a quick update. I'm not going to ask anyone to make any decisions on anything tonight, but I emailed Justin a, excuse me, an updated LOU. I'm sorry. Bringing down the 60-day notice to 30 days. And they also said to have our attorney look at it and any other language that they want to change or adjust for us to do it and send it back to them. And they'll have their attorneys look at it. So that's where we're at with that. We did get it down to 30 days, but the other, excuse me, the other part is I'm hopefully by the next meeting, I'm trying to work on some different ways we can fundraise or sponsor to see if we can get money to give the kids to participate in the program for kids who might not be able to come up with the 150, the families. So if we can get some type of monetary assistance from different sources, that might help bring up the numbers. I did put it out to a couple different people and pages, got a little bit of a response, not as big as I hoped, but hopefully in the next week, we'll see where it goes, and then I'll send everybody an email and hopefully have a decision on what we want to do by the next meeting.
Aaron, on the recreation assistant, before we mention any names, I would like to table that for our next meeting.
That's fine.
Motion to table?
I make that motion to table.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So,
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
anything else you got, recreation?
No.
It's your chance to shine now, come on. Yeah?
I'll wait till I remember in like 10 minutes.
All right. Justin, you're on.
Okay. So you all asked for a few updates.
Start on Chris Dyroff.
I'll start with Chris Dyroff. We've been working with Chris, one of your planning board members, for some time now regarding changing his retirement classification at the state. There's proposed legislation that's been drafted. I believe it's been supplied to you all. It had the fiscal notes added to it recently, which is basically the monies, the impact and change on mostly future retirement benefits. The town of Highlands would be responsible, in essence, for a one-time catch-up. It's a fairly reasonable number, and I think it was anticipated, but beyond that, Senator Larkin's office will be introducing the legislation at the Senate. Assemblyman Skoufis will be introducing the legislation to the Assembly. Once they have done that and bill numbers are assigned, they would ask you all to do your formal special legislation request. It's basically a motion, but they have certain forms that get filled out by the town clerk. So that's all moved along. I have not spoken directly with Havistraw, but my understanding is that Havistraw is in favor of the legislation. That's where Mr. Dyroff is working his full-time position. So assuming you all are comfortable, that'll move ahead.
The only question I would have, and it's more of a clarification to the board here, I think it's $1,730 it would cost us initially, which would be like a back payment to his retirement.
Correct.
It would be $90 more a year for his retirement.
Approximately, right? I mean, that number, right, depends on. how
And
the
that's only if he
retirement-
stays with us. If he leaves the planning board, then that...
Oh, absolutely,
done with.
right, correct.
Okay. Any other questions the board may have? No?
Good. I'll let both the Assemblyman and the Senator's office know.
Good.
A project that's been around a little longer than the Chris Dyroff. The sewer plant storm mitigation loan program project and the financing of that project. So we recently got correspondence from EFC, which monitors the program on behalf of the storm mitigation loan program, which is more of a federal program. And they anticipate that we should be in line for funding in June. The project engineer, Al Fusco, then wrote a letter to EFC sort of outlining what he believes the realistic steps are for the plans. And I do think, and I think Mr. Fusco might have suggested it to the supervisor, but I do think he should probably have a meeting with the supervisor, council, and maybe some other board representative, just so we can nail that down and really have an understanding of where the project plans stand. I have some concern based on the schedule given by the engineer, that it might not work in lockstep with the FC scheduling. So we just want to iron all that out so we don't see unnecessary delay. Because, right, I think we've been talking, it's fairly new to you, Ty, but we've been talking about it on and off for a year and a half now.
Bill,
Give or take.
Bill, maybe you could set up a meeting with Al, because you'll be the only one that, since you work daytime, maybe you could set it up on some time off that you can get or have, and then just get myself, Justin, Bob Hill.
Yeah, Bob Held should be available for the meeting as well.
All right, Bill? I'll leave
yeah,
that up to you
will do.
to set it up.
Again, this was largely good news that we're sort of being slotted by the EFC, so that's a positive. It's just that to avoid any sort of hiccups,
Yeah.
it's probably good to have
Because we're
face-to-face
talking
meeting.
about construction completion in September of 18.
Correct, right? But so if we miss any key benchmarks, right, you get delayed 3 or 6 months. You don't get delayed 3 or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So just for that coordination, I'd recommend that. Even if it's a conference call, it's probably
I think we got to
important.
be able to sit down around a table. That's the best. It worked out good for us today, right, Kelly?
I always like face-to-face.
Yeah.
Never an issue for me.
By the time you hang up the phone, oh, I meant to ask him this.
Oh, absolutely. So if it is June, then we have a little bit of documentation to get up to EFC. It shouldn't be an issue. But all of it, they don't want things too far in advance anyway, right? And things get stale. So, but if it does look like June is the real date, then activity will start increasing for the controller's office and for a few
Kelly,
of
I
us.
don't think you have that time scheduled, do you?
I don't.
I noticed you were kind of, your ears were perking
Yeah.
on that. I'll get it to you.
It just came in, right?
Yeah.
Friday,
Yeah.
maybe Friday, I think he sent it. Any questions directly related to that, or?
I don't have any time. This
Oh.
is like a $2.8 million project.
Correct.
It's done based on the storm damage that we had from Sandy.
Correct.
And it's an upgrading of the plant, basically, based on the storm damage and to prevent any future storm damage.
But it's not a direct increase to capacity, which is maybe an issue of concern.
Which is something we should talk about when we all get together, to see if, even if it's separate funding, if we can't put something in for more capacity.
Correct. Or what the true capacity increases would be from
Yeah.
the modernization of the plant. So that's something to be explored.
If you would skip down the Corbin Hill update, then we'll get into that highway truck.
Pat, to wait a little longer? Fine.
That's right, you can wait.
The Corbin Hill stormwater, which ties a little bit into the sewer plant. So last week, I guess, it was determined that there was a significant infiltration issue on the Corbin Hill property, which is dumping unnecessary gallonage into our sanitary system, and it's ultimately running through the plant. That's a problem under all circumstances, right? Infiltration's always something to be aware of and to look for and to eliminate. But in particular, it's really caused, it's such a large amount of water running through that it's causing we're reaching our capacity numbers. At that point, you face potential DEC action, right? If you consistently go over your targeted numbers, you could be fined. So between Pat's involvement, Bob Held's involvement, Bruce Terwilliger's involvement, the supervisor's involvement, there was reach out immediately to Corbin Hill upon discovery, and they've been actually fairly responsive. They hired an engineer who met on site with town officials. There's a few other issues of concern at the Corbin Hill site, so they met on multiple issues, this being the most pressing. Last Friday as well. We thought we all had a plan in place to rectify the issue. It seemed comfortable to our experts, and Corbin Hill was prepared to move forward with that. They did get on site on Saturday, ran into some property concerns. I've heard a couple different stories, but one's the West Point water main, which does cut in close proximity, does cut across the Corbin Hill property. There was also potentially some concern with other utilities hadn't been staked out. So ultimately, they stopped the work, so the problem is not yet fixed. They've been provided some additional information, and I do anticipate that they'll most likely be back on site tomorrow. If not, it'll be within the next 48 hours. That's important. That's important for all of you. But there does seem to be good communication and cooperation at the moment on that particular issue. There are some ancillary issues at the site related to drainage and stormwater management protection and infiltration, and solutions are a little more long-term in nature. They've got some detention ponds that aren't functioning from the original build-out, which need to be brought online. My understanding is they will be. There also might be some design elements that need to be looked at, and again, my understanding is their engineer did look at those and is coming up with plans, but the town's predominant concern was the sewer infiltration, and so that was being addressed first. So hopefully you won't hear more about that, because the problem will be solved.
Yeah, I was up there Saturday after they had left, after they covered the hole up and left. A couple of the storm drains, I could hear the water really rushing like a brook really fast, but I'm not finding where the water's going. It's just rushing there, and it's not going into detention pond. It's not going out the bottom of the hill. I don't know where it's going. So that's one of the things that they've got to look into and get fixed for us. So
Correct.
We're keeping track of the outflow from the plant, and I just hope we're going to see like quite a drop in it once we get that done.
Yes, that's what's anticipated. I don't know if Pat, were you there when they opened up that particular manhole and saw the infiltration?
I did see the infiltration, it was bad.
Right. I mean, it was really a fairly massive amount of water, and again, so that's directly running into your plant and fairly dramatically raising your numbers.
Well, what was our engineer saying, like 25,000 gallons an hour a day or whatever, hour, I think it was, wasn't it something like that?
Yeah.
It was a large number.
It was
Yeah.
a large amount. It was a large amount, and they have the stuff on site to fix it the correct way this time.
Is there anything you can add to what we just talked about?
I just say that thank God that they're starting to know that we mean business and they're doing the right thing by what we're telling them. As soon as we correct this, I'm sure we're going to move on to the other issues, like Justin said. But other than that, I didn't realize, because it's private property, on the mass confusion up in Corbin Hills development site up there. And I don't think a lot of people did until we went up there and actually took a look.
Mhm.
So, but it's getting resolved thanks to the team.
Yeah, Justin, if you talk to Sandy or the attorney there, what have you, Pat had a problem with them working on a Saturday, meaning that no one from the town could be looking at their job.
Right.
So if they're going to work on a weekend, that we'd like to know about it so that we can arrange to have somebody there.
Sure.
I'm not talking about an inspector standing there all the while, but we got to be able to look and see what they're doing.
Understood. Pat may be referencing other particular instances where that's occurred, and that's a concern. In this instance, there was communication with our engineer, with our building department, and we wanted the work done, and the word in essence from the engineers was that this level of repair work well, one, it was a priority to get it done, but two, even after the fact, some of it could be monitored, right? We're going to see the fix,
Yeah.
in essence, when the infiltration stops on this level of work. So we wanted them there. We asked them to mobilize as expeditiously as possible. On certain larger scale issues, I certainly agree. We have to be able to check in on the work being done.
Okay, okay. What are the steps we have to do to?
Sure, we can sort of talk about it all at once, even Highway Department truck purchase and bond resolution and bidding. So, do you want to talk about the trucks? I've just been talking a lot, but or you want me to give you the procedure and then?
Yeah, why don't you come up here and tell us what we're buying? And what we're replacing and what you're going to do with the replacements?
Then I'll explain the process.
There we go.
We're replacing I believe it's a 2000 International dump truck that has a bad frame underneath of it. We're replacing it with a hook truck, identical to the one that we have. It'll be able to lift up the dump body, the flatbed, the salt spreader that we can lift up with the other truck. So if one breaks down, we can keep on moving. This truck's going to come equipped with a salt spreader, plows, dump bodies, and it's also a roll-off truck. After we get this truck in place, we're going to put on Auctions International or put out to bid, which isn't the easy way to do it. I'm going to say Auctions International and get the highest price we can for the truck by selling it after the truck is in service and we make sure everything's good with it. The other truck that we're talking about is our satellite garbage truck. It's a 2005, I believe, and it's got well over 100,000 miles on it. It's been a headache, and we're putting too much money into this truck. It's not worth it. We've been limping it along with Band-Aids and everything we can to keep it going, and the board actually told us to go ahead and spec out this truck, and we've been working on both of these truck specs for probably 8-9 months. It's been a big process. I said that's a satellite garbage truck. It takes care of all the smaller streets. It has a can tipper on it, just like the other ones. After we get that truck in, which should be a little faster than the dump truck, we're going to put that one out on Auctions International as well and try and get the most we can for it. If we do the same thing we did with the lift, I'm able to see what I think is a fair value for it and refuse the bid if we don't like it. And we were getting $1,500 for the lift the last time, and I refused that because that was crazy to me. We put it back out to bid, and we got $4,000 for the lift. So just by monitoring what they're doing. So we should be able to get a couple dollars out of them. So.
Thank you.
So the initial part of the process is well, there's two parts of the process. There's bidding the trucks, and then there's paying for the trucks, and we're going to do that, or my understanding is the board wants to do that two different ways, but the bid documents have been prepared. As Pat said, he worked hard on the specs. The town clerk and Pat sent me some information, some of the legal information, and I tinkered with that just a little bit. It was in nice shape. But in essence, both trucks, I think, are ready to go out to bid, legally speaking, right? You're looking for the lowest responsible bidder. Based on the cost of these items, that's the nature of how you have to do it. I would suggest, I moved the dates a little bit so that it does coincide better with how you might want to potentially finance these documents. So Pat's anxious, but we're looking to have the bids come in, I believe it's May 2nd, or the first week of May. So about 30 days out there for people to bid. And then once they're in, right, they're opened, and there's a review to make sure they're responsible bidders. You can reject all bids. All the protections are in there that are necessary for you, should need be. There can be minor variations in the bid if they don't dramatically change things. So all the legal protections are put in. And that's all set and ready to go, at least from my perspective. You may want to see the bids just so you understand. Pat just explained the trucks that he's seeking. The financing, you want me to jump into financing? The financing, my understanding is that for the sanitation truck, there is approximately existing in a reserve account, approximately $100,000. Billy, will you just correct me if I'm wrong on numbers? And in a separate sanitation garage truck reserve fund, there is additional monies, same tax base, and currently there's no plans to build a garage for your sanitation trucks, nor is the amount of money in the reserve, capable of building you a garage. So the thought is that you would transfer some of the money in that fund to cover the balance of the sanitation truck. I've forgotten if the estimate is 150 or 160 for the sanitation truck.
160 is the high number, that's what we're thinking.
Right. Not to exceed or right, we'd reject all bids. We wouldn't go forward at that time. We might rebid. You'd have to rethink. So with 100 already in that reserve, the idea would be to transfer another 60, and that would allow you to pay for your truck under the best circumstances, again, whether it's one-time payment all up front or right, some of that can be restructured depending on what the bid is and how the company expects to be paid as well, similar to how you handled the ambulance. And so you have a resolution, hopefully in front of you somewhere, to transfer funds from that one reserve fund to the other. Again, they're both sanitation reserve funds, slightly different purposes. It is subject to permissive referendum, and you have that information before you. You also have before you a bonding resolution for the highway truck. Meaning you don't have adequate funds on hand, either in reserves or in the budget, to pay for the truck outright. So you would bond based on the reasonable useful life of the truck. In this instance, 15 years. So in order to do that, you pass a resolution basically saying just that. It is also subject to permissive referendum, meaning the public has 30 days from the time of your vote to come forward and challenge that should they choose to. After the bonding resolution and the permissive referendum period, that 30 days, there's an additional 20-day period for bonds where you're stopped from moving forward. So about 50 to 60 days from today, you'd be able to move forward and award a bid. And that's why we backed up the bid dates just a little bit to more coincide with that timing, so you don't sit on bids for more than about 30 days before you award the bid. You're permitted to. Municipalities can and do sometimes for legitimate reasons, but you don't want too much lag in receipt of bids, analysis of bids, and actual award.
The bonding resolution, did you do that, or is that the one I have from Hawkins?
That comes from Hawkins, your bond counsel, and just what Ty's probably not aware, but bond counsel, just what it sounds like, actually. Special counsel for bonding issues. There's only a few firms in the state that are authorized to do that type of work. There's some specialty to it. Towns used Hawkins Delfield down in New York City for at least 30 or 40 years, to my knowledge. At least when I got involved, the partner was telling me that anyway. And that's nice in that they have a lot of historical reference. They have your old documentation. They're fairly easy to work with. They've worked with us on the recent water projects, which are bonded, and the sewer project. They've been minimally involved and hopefully will be involved at the time of the financing. So they presented that resolution, I think, through Kelly's office. June's worked with them, knows how to post and advertise the permissive referendum periods.
Okay, so where do we
The
start
two
here, Justin?
scenarios.
Where we start?
Whichever one you want to start with, sanitation or highway. Sanitation is the reserve fund transfer. Highway is the bonding resolution.
All right, whereas the town board, Town of Highlands, pursuant to Section 6C of the General Municipal Law of New York State, established a capital reserve fund for the purpose of constructing a garage for sanitation vehicles known as the Sanitation Truck Garage Fund. And whereas the purpose for which this fund was established is not reasonably foreseeable in the plans of the Town of Highlands Town Board, and whereas the Town Board, in accordance with General Municipal Law 6-C9, desires to transfer a portion of the unexpended balance to another capital reserve fund with the same tax base. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Board is authorizing the transfer of $60,000 of unexpended balance to the sanitation garage of the Sanitation Truck Garage Fund, that has a current balance of approximately $150,000 to the Sanitation Vehicles Reserve Fund, with which capital reserve fund was established in accordance with Section C of the General Municipal Law of New York State. Be it further resolved, the foregoing resolution is adopted subject to permissive referendum. So I'll ask for a motion to move the transfer of funds from the Sanitation Truck Garage Fund to the Sanitation Vehicles Reserve Fund.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Edsel?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Benzer?
Aye.
Councilmember Voltaire?
Aye.
Supervisor Lindsey?
Aye. Now, the Vehicle Reserve Fund, that money will stay there until we need it. I mean, we're not doing nothing with that tonight.
Correct. No, you're just moving it tonight so that, you'll have the necessary funds, so long as it's less than $160,000. The bonding resolution, Supervisor, just so you know, is rather lengthy. So if you want me to summarize.
You're reading my mind. You're reading my mind. Go for it.
You're entitled to read it.
Go
if you
for
would
it.
like, but
I have a question about just, we be able to pay that off in advance should consolidation funds come forward? That would.
which one are we talking about?
The 15-year bond for the dump truck.
I don't know off the top of my head. And we want to confer, just looking now, Dan Birmingham. So they do set those rates and lock that in based on what the expected return is. So I'd have to look at that.
I would just suggest that in the event of a consolidation, which is possible, next year, there would be a windfall to the community from the state to pay for things,
Absolutely.
like needed trucks or buildings or whatever that might be. So I'd be interested in, I know we need the truck now, I'd be fine with bonding that, but I would like to be able to,
Have the flexibility, yeah.
flexibility to be able to pay that bond off.
There might be some sort of a penalty, because as Justin said, that's fixed, so that the purchaser of that bond knows what they're going to get at, or can expect to get out of it.
Correct. But we'll ask them tomorrow. We'll get you an answer.
I'm not sure that changes my, but
Yeah, I mean, I think with the need of the, if there's the need for the truck, then I don't know that would sway it, and if there is consolidation, those funds would go to some other good purpose.
yeah.
Okay, so you want to summarize it then?
Sure, I'm going to be exceedingly brief.
That's unusual.
Well, that is very unusual. fact, I'm going to steal from the supervisor. I'm going to read just their bolded section, which really explains it all. It's a bond resolution of the town of Highlands, New York, to be adopted this day, March 28th, on the acquisition of a truck, stating the estimated maximum cost thereof to be $240,000, and appropriating said amount for such purpose, and authorizing the issuance of bonds in the principal amount of $240,000. And in essence, what you're doing is you're pledging the full faith and credit of the town of Highlands. That's how these bonds are justified. But it's just a financing mechanism.
It's a 240 max if we come up with a less expensive vehicle.
Absolutely. You're only going to actually sell the bonds for what you need. This truck and the last truck, right, you build in a little buffer, right? So if you're short by $100, you'd have to go back and go through this process again. So there's a little bit of buffer. I would think those are fairly safe numbers to anticipate. But you'd rather have a little more money and not use it, and you certainly don't need to. Same with your other process. You transferred $60,000, and it'll sit there if the truck comes in at $140,000.
Okay, I'll ask for a motion to move the resolution, the bond resolution.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Edsel,
Aye.
Councilmember King,
Aye.
Councilmember Voltaire,
Aye.
Councilmember Gonza,
Aye.
Supervisor Lindsay.
Aye. As you can see in the agenda, Ryan Falk, Highway Department, has completed his probation period on March the 3rd, March the 23rd. And that's working so far now, where our different departments are getting notified that like a month ahead of time when the probation's coming up. Kelly, did you have anything for the board? I
But it
didn't
might not, they might
give you the
not.
opportunity.
Next week, we have the audit, Pam calling in, for our annual audit. So, I'll have a busy week next week. I'm also having, we have a company called Asset Works that's done our physical inventory of our assets. They're coming in the same week to update their physical inventory of the assets. We haven't done it in about 5 years. So I'm having them come in the same week, do it all in one.
And June, Patterson,
Yes.
carpets.
Yes.
Have we gone back to the drawing board on that? I know,
We'll table it for now.
yeah, okay. June and I had a conversation about it, and it's really, it's going to put the town into one big uproar, trying to move everything and put carpets down. I mean, it's,
We're gonna do it when you go on vacation.
I think he just canceled his vacation.
anybody on the town board have anything? Anything else? Justin, you have anything else? Pat, you have something? You're
Yeah, I have a
scratching your
couple-
back.
I have a couple little things.
Okay, please, got to come up here. You can't sit in the back and,
We'll start by Wednesday through Friday, we're going to be flushing hydrants throughout the town. Please expect dirty water for a little while, it should clear up. Bill, the double poles are being worked on little by
I see
little
improvement.
during the day, so there is improvements going on. Not as fast as you and I would like, but they are working.
I was surprised that they were going back to Orange and Rockland to actually pull the pole. Is that, I thought the last one on the pole had to pull it, and so I was.
There's different poles are owned by different companies. Some are owned by Verizon, some are by O&R. I know O&R is the one who did that big trunk line out of Rockland County. So maybe some of that is their responsibility to pull those double poles out on 9W. So, but I know there is different, the cable company, I'm not sure how much they own, but I know the telephone company and electric company, O&R, actually own poles. Tomorrow, the master meter is being changed.
forgot about that.
In,
Any interruption?
There shouldn't be any interruption. We're hoping not to have any. The contractor came in today, and we met last week, and I told him he had to secure the pipes to the walls of the meter pit, and he did that, so we should never have a problem in there. We should be able to bypass the main meter. He is going to cut back on the water flow, which will not affect anybody. So if everything goes good, we won't have an interruption tomorrow.
Things don't go good, which I'm not wishing you bad luck. There may be a minor
There may be a
interruption.
minor interruption, so,
That's a town outside the village.
yes.
Can you please refresh the public's with that number, your water number? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah?
I don't have the number
Here,
on the top of my
hold on
head.
one second.
Kelly? It is on our, it's on our Facebook page, it's on Channel 23, it's on the website, the number to the water department, if you do have. Yes, 859-4421 is the water department for the town of Highlands, new number. Feel free to call at any time.
Pat, across the street from the firehouse, Fort Montgomery,
Yes,
I noticed coming up here tonight, there seems to be a tree that's into the wires.
okay.
Tree branch.
Okay.
I don't know if that's new, or it's been that way, but it really stood out, and it's right into the wires.
Okay, we'll take a look at it. We're still waiting for an answer on the curbs on Franklin Street. Supervisor Livesey asked us to look into that a while ago. We tried to transfer some money that we had left over from another project, and we're just waiting for an answer right now on getting that done. We're hoping to do that before this summer comes along. Again, Ryan Falk, you said it, he's off of probation. The curbs for Montgomery Road, Drew Road, in that area, we're hoping to backfill those curbs this spring as well. And get the grass all growing back for the people and everything. That project was excellent. It did keep the water in the street and in the catch basins like it was meant to do.
Good. Thank you,
Hey,
Pat.
quick question, Mr. Patterson. The dirty water, you said Wednesday through Friday?
That's when we will be flushing, yes.
Is there any particular timelines, like in the morning or
We're-
night, afternoon?
We flush during the day. Usually we give people time to leave for work. So we usually flush between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. is when we flush. So when people get home, they're going to have a little bit of dirty water, but just let your water run a little bit and it should clear right up.
Say,
I
thanks a
mean,
lot.
discolored water.
This color.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
safe.
All right, there you go, all right. Anybody else? Anything else? Yeah. Justin, you okay? Need anything from us?
I'm okay.
All right. Kelly, you're all right? Pat, Aaron, you're all right? Any other public comment? Anybody have anything? Yes, sir.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to present to the town board. My name's Larry Gonzalez. I work for Medalist Sports. Medalist Sports has been hired by the Cancer Research Institute of New York to put on a fundraising ride here in the Hudson Valley. You may have seen some posters in the different windows here in town, advertising and promoting our event. The event is called The Answer to Cancer. It is proposed to be held on Saturday, June 25th, with the same start and finish line being utilized on Main Street between Cozzens and Tobin's Lane. It will also incorporate the municipal lot. The times for the proposed event would be beginning at 7:30 in the morning. There would be 3 different distance rides being offered at 25, 50, and 100 miles, which means then that each of those participants would be coming back at various times throughout the day. It would be an all-day event. We're working out the greater details of the event with various representatives of the communities, including Chief Quinn and Chief Scott, Officer Luke Pagan of the garrison at West Point, Sergeant Mall of the New York State Patrol, Troop F, Terrence Donahue of the Department of Transportation, Ralph Rosenfield, who will help us with different traffic detours and safety procedures. My job here today is just to inform you of the event, hopefully gain some support from the community of the town of Highland, the village of Highland Falls, and of West Point. I'll be here for the remainder of this hearing And if you have any questions or comments or anything that you'd like to know further, please let me know. Thank you for your
Have an
time.
estimate of bikers?
We are hoping for 400 participants.
And, Mr. Gonzalez, I responded to your email just about 45 minutes before.
Thank you for doing so. I appreciate that.
And I appreciate your attention to detail and your
Absolutely.
concern for the farmer's market.
We are aware of the farmers market on Sunday and their typical setup. We're here to work with any group that needs to be worked with. We have been in touch with the school district and talked about some options for parking at the middle school and the high school. We're working with Parks and Recreation, and if we can work out the details with the farmers market as well on Sunday, I think should be a great event for everybody. It is a public event, but again, it is a fundraising event, including some bike rides.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, have anything? Anything? Mary Jane, you have anything? Anybody, audience have anything? Okay. Any other public comment? Ladies? Kathy? I can't drag anything out of you. I'd like to make a motion to go into what's called executive session for a very short session to discuss personnel. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we will not be coming out to after the executive session.